Hello, everyone. So I just got back from seeing Firestarter. This is a new film that is, well, a remake of a Stephen King novel and also to a movie that was made almost 40 years ago by the same title, based off the same source material. This one stars Zac Efron and Ryan Armstrong. The movie comes in at about like an hour and 35 minutes long and is directed by Keith Thomas. So without further ado, I'm going to get into my review for Firestarter. So yes, let us do that right now. So I have not seen the original film, nor have I read the original Firestarter novel by Stephen King that this is based off of. So in terms of authenticity to the story or how it stacks up compared to the movie that came out, it's like almost 40 years ago, I cannot speak on that, but I'm just going to take this one as is. But this movie, Firestarter, is about a young girl who tries to understand how she mysteriously gained her powers to set things on fire with her mind. She basically has pyrokinesis, and we find out early on in the film that her parents met each other and fell in love after going into an experimental drug facility together, where basically they test out something that was going to be put on the market and it gave them both powers. And it takes a little while for them to explain what the powers of their parents are, but of course it gets quite into the character of Charlie and her, again, pyrokinesis powers. So the two parents kind of have an argument about how they should be raising their daughter because they have the fear that if her powers start to get a little too out of control, which they start to, that the agency that first gave them their powers are going to come after her and try to take her away from them, which is exactly what starts to happen, and that's where the movie transpires from there. So I'm not going to really get into too much more of the story just for the sake of spoilers, because again, this is very short, it's very straightforward with what this movie wants to do and accomplish. And it does kind of suffer a little bit from that. It is extremely predictable in terms of everything that is going to set up and where it's going to go from the start of that setup in this. I found that a lot of the side characters are just not flushed out well at all. And neither is just kind of the world or the organization that is giving people these experimental drugs to give them powers. I just felt like there was so much left unexplored. And even if this film was longer in terms of like half an hour or an hour longer, I don't know if I would have trust the writers to give them the proper story, just because again, this movie was just extremely fast paced, and again, I found that the dialogue wasn't really all that there to make an interesting world anyways. The CGI and just kind of lighting effects, things like that they use around the powers are nothing special either. We've seen much better from other movies, especially other horror movies in the past, and it just kind of every single time anyone used their powers, it again, just the CGI effects that came out of it were not great at all, especially not from Charlie, the main characters, which again is just very tough to get into when it doesn't look that great and it's supposed to be these big scary moments. I found that Zac Efron's character, and again, it's really weird seeing him play father roles. It just makes me feel very, very old. He had some decent effects with it, but it's mostly just because the toll that his powers have on him. I found in terms of this being what they were going for in terms of a horror movie or a thriller, the only times I really felt anything kind of nerve wracking or scary was coming from him using his powers, again, just because of the effect that they had on him. Everything else in this I just didn't find scary. I found it more comical or just off putting because of how it looked or how it was directed. I didn't find the cinematography or things, camera angles, pacing, things like that were really on par for a movie that was going to be interesting at all. I just didn't like the way things played out. It's very predictable, bland villains, side characters, and even really just the main character. They kind of almost tried to turn this into like a horror superhero film, which I don't think worked. Again, I don't know how the source material goes, but I just, again, a lot of this movie felt very, very flat to me. And it's something that I can't really recommend because it just came off as more goofy than it was supposed to be scary or empowering for Charlie's main character. Really, the one redeeming quality of this movie is that the soundtrack is honestly pretty damn solid. It reminds me of something John Carpenter would have been doing years and years ago. Just well, even with the new Halloween movies that he's been working on, and just kind of that soundtrack was very, very good. But then again, it was just everything that was filmed over top of the soundtrack didn't look good, didn't feel good, wasn't paced well, things like that. So with everything taken together, the point 5 comes from the score alone, and most of the score that I'm gonna give this film comes from the music alone, but I'm gonna give Firestarter a 3.5 out of 10. Again, I don't know how it compares to the original movie or how it compares to the source material written by Stephen King, but this isn't really something that I can recommend. It's a very, very B movie that isn't even really laughably bad or something campy and fun to watch. It's just I really didn't enjoy this film. But if you've seen the new version of Firestarter, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. If you like this review, definitely give it a thumbs up, and you can check out everything I do through my playlist down below. And for convenience sake, I'll link some up top here. Thank you for subscribing and clicking that little bell so you know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out everything I do Twitch live stream wise, there's a link to that in the description of this video. And of course, my channel bio, and in both of those places, there's a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So you can definitely join that amazing community. I'll make it even more amazing than it is already, and just awesome, guys.